Loch Ewe is a sea loch in the region of West Ross in the Northwest Highlands of Scotland. The shores are inhabited by a traditionally Gàidhlig-speaking people living in and sustained by crofting villages, the most notable of which, situated on the northeastern shore, is the Aultbea settlement. The 4-mile-long River Ewe enters Loch Ewe from the following 13 lochs of the surrounding basins: Loch Maree.Loch Fada, Loch Gàidhlig, Loch Ewe, Loch Ewe, Loch Ewe, Loch Ewe, Loch Ewe, Loch Maree.Loch Ewe, Loch Ewe, Loch Gàidhlig, Loch Drainage. History. Due to the rugged and inaccessible terrain in which it is located, Loch Ewe has always been an assembly point for maritime trade. Around 1610, the area at the head of Loch Ewe, today known as Ewe, was urbanized around an iron furnace utilizing charcoal produced in the surrounding woodlands for fuel. English ironmasters found it more economic to ship the Ottre for smelting than to ship the processed charcoal to England to run furnaces. There, the crofting villages which were established in the 1840s, as a result of the local parish's estate being reformed from runrig to fixed holdings properties, were always quite small. Ewe, 9 miles to the north of Ewe, had 11 houses and 50 people at the 1841 census, 23 of whom were from the same family. Charles, thence 4 miles to the west, had 216 people and 41 houses, including 17 houses headed by a MacLennan. Ormskirk, roughly halfway between them, had 10 houses totaling 48 people. 140 years later, in 1981, the population was 10 at Buelnalweb, 24 at Ormskirk and 110 at Charles. In 1911 a 70-foot lighthouse was built on the promontory between Gàidhlig and Ewe. Loch Ewe was used as an assembly point for the Arctic convoys during World War II. Ships from the British, American and other ports gathered here before sailing to Murmansk from September 1942 following the disaster of Convoy Peak U-17 in order to confuse German intelligence. According to the published correspondence of a local resident, the Royal Navy established watchkeeping defences around an inlet to the southeast of Loch Ewe, sourcing the area for its cod, haddock, and mackerel reserves, NATO berths and pole depots. As of 2006, the Charles base is still in use, with 2 berths authorized for nuclear-powered submarine use. The jetty at Aultbea is designated a Z-berth to allow NATO's nuclear submarines to return for servicing without warning. A second Z-berth is located in the middle of Loch Ewe itself, marked by a buoy but not appearing on any Ordnance Survey maps. The Naval Boom Defence Depot at Charles marks the start of the original protective netting which guarded the entrance to the loch. Part of the base is designated a petroleum, oil and lubricants depot. This provides for the maintenance of visiting warships. Culture. Loch Ewe is often praised for its scenic beauty, especially in the vistas from the so-called Midnight Walk about 1.5 miles to the north of Ewe. This is the subject of many strathspeys still sung today in local Gàidhlig. Additionally, it has several outposts above the Aultbea for shore, giving photo opportunities for tourists travelling inland. Ancient mariner folklore. In his compendium of folk and fairy tales of the mainland, Sir George Douglas records that the ancestral dialogues and mythological apologues of the Scottish peasantry, and the folkish customs employed in recounting them, still linger in the remote western islands of Barra, where, in the long winter nights, the people would gather in crowds to listen to those whom they considered good exponents of the art. At an early earlier date, but still, at that time, within living memory. The custom survived at Pwllheu in Ross Shire, where the young people were used to assemble at night to hear the old ones recite the tales which they had learned from the forefathers. Here, and at earlier dates in other parts of the country also, the demand for stories would further be supplied by travelling pedlars, or by gaberlunzie men, or pauper wandering musicians and entertainers, or by the itinerant shoemaker or tailor, Whip the Cat as he was nicknamed, both of which last were accustomed to travel through thinly populated country districts in the pursuit of their calling, and to put up for the night at farmhouses, where, whilst plying the needles, they would entertain the company with stories. The arrival of one of these storytellers in a village was an important event. As soon as it became known, there would be a rush to the house where he was lodged, and every available seat, on bench, table, bed, beam, or the floor, would quickly be appropriated, and then, for hours together, just like some first-rate actor on a stage, the storyteller would hold his audience spellbound. During his recitals, the emotions of the reciter were occasionally very strongly excited, as were also those of his listeners, who at one time would be on the verge of tears, at another give way to laughter. There were many of these listeners, by the way, who believed firmly in all the extravagances narrated, and such rustic scenes as these, as I have by no means been without the marked upon Scottish literature. Dialect. Ross Shire dialect English is spoken in Redpoint and Pwllheu. It is somewhat similar to that of the Southern Hebridean dialects. Pre-aspiration involves a very distinct and long H, often with a slight velar friction, though this H is different from X, which has more friction, and there exist such pairs as boc, a buck, boc tilde bcxk, paw, bochd. When the occlusive is palatal, H is not affected by the palatality.